Hello and welcome. I probably don't need to define an iceberg, but for those who might be unfamiliar, it's a listing of subjects under one topic, arranged in tiers, that goes from well-known to very obscure. The topic of this iceberg is Unsolved Mysteries, created by the user Jimbo Seth. For the sake of transparency, some entries were filtered out. The reasons for exclusion varied. Some lacked clear information, some topics were too broad, and others were clearly fictional. Also, due to content restrictions on YouTube, any entry primarily focused on young people was also removed. Naturally, to avoid being demonetized, age-restricted, and effectively shadow-banned, some terminology has been altered. For example, serial criminal refers to bad people who make other people not alive. I've tried to minimize this ridiculous self-censoring or excessive use of euphemisms because it's just as annoying to do as it is to listen to it. So if you're going to complain in the comments section, direct those comments at YouTube. Alright, enough pre-babble. Let's get to the first entry in this very long iceberg about mysterious events, objects, and other nifty weirdness. Would You Could You on a Train is an entry that seems to conflate two events into one mystery. It begins on September 27, 2016, with a bizarre test of the emergency broadcast system on WKTV, a channel located in Utica, New York. The message itself is a hazardous materials warning for the entire United States. At the end are the words, "Would you, could you, on a train?" which is a quote from a Dr. Seuss book, Green Eggs and Ham. So, pretty weird. The following day, the channel would retract that message on their Twitter account. It's unknown why this message contained such a weird quote, or how this quote-unquote technical glitch happened. The day after that, on September 29, 2016, a train in Hoboken, New York, failed to come to a stop and crashed into a station. One person lost their life, and numerous people were injured. Originally, it seemed like it happened for no reason. However, after a 2-year investigation, it was found that the engineer, who had no memory of the crash itself, had fallen asleep due to fatigue and suffered from undiagnosed sleep apnea. So literally, the driver fell asleep at the wheel. The mystery behind this event is whether the accidental, weird emergency broadcast message in Utica was telegraphing the Hoboken accident. The reasoning for the connection between the two events is rather shaky and doesn't rule out the possibility of a coincidence. Oumuamua, I'm gonna commit to that pronunciation, was originally designated as a comet, but it was then downgraded to an asteroid because it didn't have a gaseous tail. Anyway, it was an interstellar object, possibly from the Vega star system, that passed through our backyard in late 2017. It left our solar system sometime in 2022. What makes it odd is the interstellar origin and the fact that it tumbled end to end rather than spinning like other similar objects. Not really a mystery per se, more of a nifty astronomical event that occurred. September of 2001 was a pretty lousy time. A week after the attack on the United States on the 11th, letters containing anthrax were mailed to various media sources and 2 senators. 5 people lost their lives and 17 others were infected. It also spawned a wave of hoax letters being sent to more media outlets. It was something that caused even more chaos during a highly chaotic time. While a foreign agent seemed like a likely suspect due to the attacks the prior week, the investigation focused on 2 domestic residents who had access to the deadly bacteria. One suspect was eventually exonerated, and the other one was declared the sole perpetrator in August of 2008, 1 week after they ended their own life. The FBI closed the case shortly thereafter. The case has been subsequently reviewed, and it was determined that the FBI had insufficient evidence to claim their suspect was the one responsible. The FBI asserted the scientific evidence and other circumstantial aspects supported their conclusion. So, technically speaking, there is room to doubt the FBI's conclusion, especially the assertion that the suspect acted alone. What caused the most doubt is the lack of incriminating spores in the suspect's home, car, or on any of their belongings. So, how the suspect managed to commit this crime without infecting any of those areas is very mysterious. Prior to 2016, creepy clown appearances were the domain of pranksters, people just being weird, or Stephen King movie adaptations. However, in August of that year, unnerving photographs of a clown holding black balloons and wandering the streets of Green Bay, Wisconsin caught the media's attention. This incident quickly went viral. Afterwards, it was discovered this was a marketing campaign for an independent horror movie, Gags the Clown. Unfortunately, this successful stunt inspired others to put on clown costumes and engage in more devious activity. This turned into a brief worldwide phenomenon. While there were multiple arrests made, there was only one confirmed case of a person wearing a clown mask causing an act of violence. So not really a mystery, it's more of an odd turn of events by some less than savory characters trying to gain clout or, get away with being creepy. The Third Avenue kidnapping is a straight-up mystery that happened on November 12, 2019. It involves footage from a doorbell camera where a woman can be heard screaming for help. A moment later, a white car with its trunk open speeds by the camera and the footage ends. It's truly chilling footage. Naturally, it's suspected the victim was being kidnapped, but to this date, neither the victim nor the perpetrator have been identified or located. A858. This subreddit, created in 2011, was a data dump of hexadecimal code. Many presumed it was similar to Cicada 3301, the infamous code-breaking recruitment subreddit that first appeared in 2012. Despite numerous attempts to understand the code, it has remained unsolved, and the subreddit itself has gone dark after announcing it had concluded. So its intentions and ultimate purpose remain a mystery. Albert Johnson was one tough individual whose actual identity has never been confirmed. His story is a bizarre piece of Canadian history from 1932. The RCMP received reports from Indigenous trappers who claimed that Johnson was tampering with their traps and disabling them. The RCMP attempted to question Johnson at his cabin, but he completely ignored them. The RCMP left, returned a week later to question him again, and they were shot at. One officer was wounded in the firefight. The RCMP retreated and returned later with a full-blown posse consisting of 9 men, 42 dogs, and 20 pounds of dynamite. Johnson's cabin was blown up, but he survived and continued to shoot at the RCMP for the next 15 hours. Again, the RCMP retreated. Blizzard conditions prevented them from returning to the scene for a few weeks, and by the time they returned, Johnson had fled. The RCMP pursued Johnson for the next month through, honestly, impossible conditions over 83 kilometers of deep snow and -30 weather. The RCMP hired a pilot to fly over the area and look for Johnson's tracks. Using this method, they finally found the renegade. Once located, another firefight broke out, and Johnson was fatally shot, ending the pursuit. In the ensuing years, many efforts have been made to correctly identify this individual. There has even been DNA testing. But to this date, his actual identity is unknown. Amelia Earhart's disappearance is a well-known missing person case that probably needs very little elaboration. She was a celebrated aviator in the 1930s who disappeared on her second attempt to circumnavigate the world in an airplane. There are numerous theories concerning her fate. They range from the mundane, the plane ran out of fuel and crashed, to the more elaborate, she safely landed and assumed another identity. Amy Lynn Bradley was a 23-year-old American woman that disappeared from a cruise ship in March of 1988. This is another case where her fate is in doubt, and officially, it's not been declared what may have happened to her. However, there are many theories. One involves her being kidnapped and trafficked. Unfortunately, due to unconfirmed reports of her being alive, an individual claiming to be a U.S. Army officer scammed the family out of a significant amount of money. He claimed to know where Amy was being held, and he obtained money from the family to fund an extraction effort. This was subsequently found to be an entirely fabricated story, and the individual was charged and imprisoned for fraud. That being said, the prevailing theory is Amy is still alive, and perhaps being sold for, well, one can fill in the blank on their own. Regardless, her actual fate or whereabouts, and whether she met that fate by accident or through intentional means, remains unsolved. The XMen of New Orleans was a serial criminal that seemed to target Italian Americans living in the New Orleans area in 1918 and 1919. The focus of his attacks appear to be women, with the men being collateral damage, so to speak. His weapon of choice, primarily an axe, was an object he discovered in the victims' homes. In other words, he used whatever was available after he broke in. Despite numerous victims surviving their attack, the Axeman was never identified or caught. Ball lightning is a rare and unexplained, allegedly natural phenomenon. Its characteristics wildly vary. It can appear to be tiny or very large, occurs in a range of colors, it moves in an erratic manner, and it can last for several seconds before disappearing. Scientifically, there is very little data to explain it, which is mainly due to a lack of evidence. Attempts to recreate it in a laboratory have not been successful. Currently, there are many theories, some of which are supernatural in origin, but how and why it happens is an actual mystery. The Baltic Sea Anomaly refers to a sonar image taken by the sea exploration organization OceanX. While looking for sunken treasure, they captured an image of a round structure on the sea floor. The team apparently obtained a sample of this alleged structure, but analysis turned up nothing unusual about its mineral composition. While its shape does give the appearance of something that was constructed, many state the terrible resolution and the image distortions virtually make the image useless. At best, it's a curiosity worth further examination with better equipment. But at this point, it doesn't indicate a structure that was purposefully built. It could be a natural formation. The Battle of Los Angeles is an event that occurred 3 months after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. This battle is best characterized as a false alarm due to paranoia concerning an attack on this coastal city, which was a reasonable concern. In fact, many cities on the West Coast enacted blackout conditions during this time, and the military fortified certain high-value targets to prevent aerial attacks. During the night of February 25, 1941, lights were reported in the sky near Los Angeles. In response, 1,400 shells were fired into the air to prevent enemy planes from reaching their targets. It was later discovered that weather balloons and the explosion of shells were likely mistaken for enemy targets. Not to mention, at the conclusion of the war in 1945, it was also discovered the Japanese never flew any missions to attack Los Angeles. Some have speculated this was a false flag operation to allegedly reinforce the United States' commitment to the war. Others claim the lights in the sky that initiated the attack were actually alien spacecraft. Neither theory appears to have widespread acceptance, nor evidence to support these claims. This entry, beyond the observable universe, is vague, but worth a quick examination. The observable universe is, naturally, the portion of the universe we can observe using current technology. Logically, due to these technological limits, there is only so much of the universe we can detect. So really, there's just more universe that we can't see, beyond the range of what we can see. It's not really a mystery, unless I'm misunderstanding the intent of this entry. Boltzmann Brain is a thought experiment created by Ludwig Boltzmann. In essence, it's the logical but absurd conclusion one can arrive at when examining a theory. In this case, it highlights a potential absurdity in the cosmological theory of the universe. The example is, it's more likely that a single brain, with a lifetime of memories, and presumably a consciousness, would spontaneously appear in space than it is for the entire universe to arise in accordance to current theories. Put another way, a complex piece of anatomy, such as a functioning human brain, spontaneously appearing is actually more likely than an entire expanding universe suddenly appearing under the same conditions. This is also an example of logically reducing an argument to an absurd conclusion. While it may seem unbelievable and improbable, it's an argument that cannot be discounted or dismissed. Creepier still, in a universe like our own, there's nothing to suggest this or something similar hasn't actually happened at some point. In 1976, William Bradford Bishop left his job early, bought some tools at a hardware store, filled up a gas can with fuel, and then went home and destroyed his wife, mother, and 3 children. He loaded their bodies into his car, drove to a remote location 270 miles away, and placed them in a shallow grave that he set on fire. Bishop then drove another 400 miles to a remote campground where he parked his car and simply disappeared. Everything about this case appears to be a stone-cold mystery. His motivation for this sudden act of brutality has never been explained, or for that matter, understood. There was nothing unusual in his personal or work life that suggested he was struggling with difficulties that pushed him to this extreme limit. Whatever triggered him is as unknown as his location or whether he lives to this day. In fact, between 2014 and 2018, the FBI placed Bishop on their 10 most wanted list, which suggested the agency still believed he was alive. At this point, Bishop would be well into his 80s, and it's very likely, unless he came forward to explain himself, that this terrible crime will never be resolved or explained. On March 31, 2006, Brian Schaefer and two friends did some bar hopping to celebrate spring break. They ended their night where they originally began, the Ugly Tuna Saloona. They had a drink for last call, and then Schaefer separated from his friends. Security camera footage shows him outside the bar at 1:55 a.m. talking to two women. He left this conversation to apparently re-enter the bar, and he was never seen again. His two friends waited for him outside the bar when it closed at 2 a.m., but neither saw him. There is also no video record of him leaving, nor had any other security cameras in the area recorded his presence. Investigators don't rule out the possibility that the bar's cameras, one of which was manually operated and the other panned automatically, either missed Schaefer's exit or he hid his face as he left the bar. There was also an alternate exit not covered by surveillance, but it was allegedly difficult to navigate due to construction in that area. Regardless, a thorough search produced no results. Schaefer apparently disappeared from an area well known to be covered with security coverage due to its high crime. In the ensuing years, there have been a few reports of Schaefer being sighted, but none have panned out. His fate remains unknown to this day. Capitol Hill's Mystery Soda Machine was a vending machine located in the Capitol Hill area of Seattle. The machine itself was located outside a locksmith business, and, according to the owner of that business, they never saw who stocked the machine. So who owned and operated it is a mystery. What makes this very strange is all the buttons on it were marked mystery, although some pictures show the machine with buttons allocated to specific brands. For the mystery buttons, you put your money in and you took your chances. Reportedly, it dispensed rare or unavailable soft drinks such as Mountain Dew Whiteout, Raspberry Nest Tea, Hawaiian Punch, Grape Fanta, and Vanilla Coke, to name a few. The machine had its own Facebook page, and in June of 2018, it announced, "Going for a walk, need to find myself, maybe take a shower even." With that message, the machine disappeared. Someone even posted a video of the machine's former location, which had a sign taped to the railing saying, "Went for a walk, machine." Following this, in October of 2022, the machine allegedly appeared at a different location in Shoreline, Washington. However, there does not seem to be any photographic evidence, and the machine subsequently disappeared a few months later. The Facebook page remained somewhat active. There were posts of the machine photoshopped into exotic locations. There was also a posting as recent as January 29, 2022, although that posting shows a machine in severe disrepair, covered in graffiti. From other reports, the machine stopped working properly. Presumably, the owner, whoever that might be, pulled it out for repair and they were unable to fix it. Its final resting place, or whether it might return once again, is unknown. Carnival of Light. Now, I consider myself a Beatles fan, but even I didn't know about this oddball recording produced by the group in 1967. It's a 14-minute track of psychedelic noise, without lyrics, similar to the track Revolution Number 9, Revolution Number 9, Revolution Number 9. Apparently, Carnival of Light only played once at a rave in 1967, and it's been in Paul McCartney's archive ever since. He's attempted to include it in Beatles anthology albums, but its inclusion was vetoed by the other members. It may one day see a release, but for now, it remains a piece of lost media. The Chinese brain is another thought experiment. With the population of that country roughly equaling the number of neurons in a human mind, the thought experiment asks, what if all the people of that country were arranged in an order identical to the pattern of neurons and were limited in how and with whom they corresponded? Would this arrangement that followed these strict communication guidelines be considered a mind? The intent seems to highlight that a consciousness arising from these conditions is too simplistic or unreasonable. Covfefe was an obviously misspelled word in a tweet from then-President Donald Trump on May 31, 2017. The tweet was later deleted, with the misspelling going viral soon thereafter. Both Trump and his press secretary perpetuated the notion that this misspelling was intentional and meant something oblique. If there was another actual meaning to this word, it's never been established. Cut Off My Feet was a fundraising campaign from the very early days of the year 2000. It involved the man, Paul Morgan, who sustained an injury that prevented him from walking. His feet were numb from the ankles down. Despite prosthetic surgery being available, the necessary surgery was deemed non-essential and not covered by medical insurance. Paul then decided to resolve the matter in a unique way. He announced he was going to build a guillotine and remove his feet during a live stream. Both streaming platforms and donation sites did not exist at that time, so Paul did a grassroots campaign, trying to raise the necessary money to construct the equipment he needed and to fund a streaming broadcast of the event. The total cost was in the area of $150,000. He even went on the Howard Stern show to promote this ill-advised activity. Naturally, this brought in a lot of attention, and it looked like an event that would actually happen. The event was scheduled and rescheduled numerous times, but never happened. Eventually, the website set up to take donations and stream this event posted a final message. All of the crew and investors had allegedly pulled out, and it was being postponed until more production money could be obtained. Paul subsequently disappeared. It's currently unknown whether this was a genuine event Paul intended to do, or whether this was a hoax or a piece of performance art. Regardless, Paul remains silent. D.B. Cooper is another very well-known case that requires little elaboration. In 1971, an unidentified, very polite man hijacked a plane, demanded $200,000, and then parachuted out of the plane when the money was received. There are numerous books, movies, and videos about this infamous act of air piracy, many of which speculate about the identity of the man that came to be known as D.B. Cooper, although that name was a reporting error. In an early news article, an actual man with that name was interviewed and cleared by Portland police. However, the news report mistakenly used this innocent man's name as the name of the hijacker. Other media sources reported this error, and D.B. Cooper became the name of this unidentified man. There are many theories about the identity of this individual. There are an equal amount of theories about whether he survived parachuting out of the plane or not. To this date, it is completely unknown what happened to D.B. Cooper. For many years, it was theorized the expansion of the universe was slowing down and it would eventually stop altogether. Then it might contract once again until all matter in the universe occupied the same point in space. However, in 1998, it was discovered that not only was the expansion not slowing down, it was actually increasing in speed. In fact, at some point, roughly 7 or 8 billion years ago, the expansion was actually slowing down. But another force seemed to negate the gravitational force that slowed the expansion, and, instead, it began to accelerate the expansion. This observation was later confirmed multiple times. This led to the theory of dark energy, the repulsive force that was increasing the speed of this expansion. In layman's terms, it's like anti-gravity, or it nullifies the effects of gravity. Oddly, this was something predicted by Einstein, but he later discounted it as a monumental blunder. Even when Einstein was wrong, or when he concluded his calculations were just too reality-breaking to be true, he was actually right. Regardless, how dark energy works, or why it works, is completely unknown. Naturally, theories have been put forth, but at this time, this force, which is estimated to make up 68% of the universe, is still a complete mystery. Dark matter is a form of currently undetectable matter. Its main characteristic is it doesn't interact with the electromagnetic field, therefore it doesn't emit electromagnetic radiation. Thus, detecting its presence is very difficult with today's technology. Dark matter is theorized to exist because, according to calculations, galaxies would form and behave much differently without this unseen form of matter. However, presuming this mysterious matter exists, galaxy formation occurs in accordance with observation. There appears to be studies that confirm it exists, but its properties are still a theoretical matter. Like dark energy, it's an ongoing investigation that currently has no explanation. Welcome to the babble at the end. For regular viewers, this is very off topic from my usual output, but I thought I'd challenge myself and do something completely different. From a channel named Strange Brain Parts, you can presume that oddball subjects catch my attention. For once, I thought I'd indulge myself and investigate these side interests. So think of this as a side project. If there's a sudden burst of interest, I'll probably make a separate channel and put future content on that. So what about you? What entry appealed to you? Most topics are covered pretty quickly, but that's the point of an iceberg in my opinion. Personally, I thought the Capitol Hill Mystery Soda Machine was kind of awesome. It's pretty harmless and weird and kind of cool. Also, this is about a third of the first tier, so there's 2 more potential videos on that tier alone. Or maybe just 1, depending on what I have to filter out to avoid tweaking YouTube's content restrictions. Alright, I don't want to make a long video longer than it has to be. So like, subscribe, comment, and all that good stuff. Also, thanks to all the members who directly support this channel. Without that support, this channel cannot function. My thanks to all of you. And as always, thank you for watching.